Okay, so for the maybe one person that's watching the live stream of this, first of all, hi, Aaron. And second of all, we're going to do back to back recordings of the stream. And unless Zoom forces me to break it up, I'm not going to break it up. But I'm still going to do the normal intro and outro for the regular episodes. So, Neil, I'm going to mute us and do the little intro and outro screens with the actual recording right now. Go into black screen. Hi, my name's Sean. That is my friend and temporary co-host sitting in for Jesse this week. His name is Neil, and if he looks familiar, it's because A, he's very handsome, and B, because he has been there before. He's officially a PokéMalarkey veteran, a veteran of Malarkey. That's Neil's tagline, probably. Neil, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week and, nice to have a drink, right?
I honestly can't think of a better way to spend a Friday than staring at my own gameplay footage of Pokemon Shield because I've been addicted this week, but also we haven't talked since maybe since I had my birthday thingamajig, and that's too long. So thank you, A, for filling in for Jesse, and B, being a human that I enjoy interacting with. I appreciate both of those things. Thanks, Neil.
No, thank you. No problem.
We've got 2 episodes with Neil where you'll sit in for Jesse, but just 1 episode for right now. And what we're gonna start with is that episode, and that's a really weird thing. I'm rambling. Oh no, God, I'm nervous. What do I do? What do I do? Let me try that again. Today we're talking about Pokemon Indigo League, episode 16, and the title of that episode, I think I know. It's called Pokemon Shipwreck. Yes, Pokemon Shipwreck. It's episode 16, and it's kind of part of a 4-ish part series. We've already covered 14 and 15, and now we're going to do 16 today. Neil, I was wondering if you would do the episode of offering a brief synopsis of the episode in a pure and objective style before we tear it to shreds because this episode's a piece of shit.
My synopsis might be a little brief. I like to be very to the point.
Good.
Basically,
Jesse's going to be so sad at the lack of sass in this episode. But sorry, Jesse, we're just going to be who we are, and you're going to have to live with that. I'll try to be extra sassy.
So, defying like the laws of physics, the show opens up and the Saint Anne in the anime, I think it's called the SS Anne in the games, it is balancing upside down on a little like mountain thing, like about to fall into a crevice in the deepest part of the ocean, where, obviously the pressure should crush them, but, whatever.
I think what you mean is where obviously the coolest Pokemon possibly live.
That's true.
I have no idea. But neither do they, I bet. Neither do they.
I mean, there are so many undiscovered Pokemon.
Professor Oak told me so. I believe him.
So the Saint Anne is balancing in the deep in the ocean, and then the crew wake up because they're obviously out cold, and everything is upside down, and they're trying to figure out what the heck to do, and they try to go up from the middle part of the ship to the hull, which is now at the top of the ship, above them. And they just have to journey up there, go through, a couple layers, and then burn a hole into the hull. So they will let the water in, and then they will waterfall up or whatever, and then just swim up to the surface. And then towards the end, they eventually get to the surface, and basically they're waiting, to be saved or whatever. They're super hungry. James gets pissed off at the Magikarp that he purchased. He kicks it into the sea.
That
and it
saved his life, mind you. Saved his life.
It saved his life.
Kind of.
And
It mostly saved his life. Way to
and
go, Magikarp.
in the most badass way, it just immediately evolves out of frustration or sadness or something. And Gyarados is obviously super pissed. So it does its favorite move, Dragon Rage, and then the gang is hurled into a typhoon to who knows where. We'll find out on the next episode.
That sounded like the end of like a Rocky and Bullwinkle. Like, find out next time. And we will. Okay, let's get mad at this episode because holy shit, I've got serious problems with it. Some context about Sean. First, I hate large bodies of water and oceans and boats. Okay, I think that covers that part. Second of all, the episode starts off real bad. The gang is looking at Ash upside down, and he's like, "No, I'm not upside down. You guys are upside down," because it looks like they're standing on a ceiling. And then he kind of comes to and realizes he's literally hanging from like a table upside down, and his friends are just watching him fall to the floor. They're like, "Hey, Ash, you okay?" As he's hanging upside down, passed out, and then just falls to the floor. And so that's pretty shitty. And then second of all, yeah, there's lots of physics defying things that go on here. But gosh, I want to just tear it open from beginning to end, but I also want you to have input. So maybe we go kind of step by step. Neil, your thoughts on the earlier portion of the episode here?
I mean, we find out early on that like Misty is actually going to be useful in the sense like, oh, she has water Pokemon. Normally, they're pretty useless on land.
Take that, Aquaman.
Yeah. So now, so she's this is the high point of her of the Indigo League, of season 1 or whatever.
Now, to be fair, they waited a while to be useful, but they came through in a big way. Like, we'll give them some credit. It was big. They needed to save lives.
That's true. Their own lives.
I'll give that to them. Yeah, their own. Yes. Well, no, the water Pokemon are going to be fine. They could have just been like, "Peace out, bitches." They were going to be okay.
The first thing that
we never see how deep they are. In their defense, they don't know how deep they are either, probably. But we never see how deep they are. Maybe they're in the shallows, and they just found a small gap in the shallows, and so it's really not as insanely absurd as it seems. It is, but maybe it's not.
I mean, it's possible, but even the thing is, like, even if they were like, like a couple, like even if they were only like 100 or 200 feet like deep or something, like rising up like to the surface, they'd get the bends, right? Like,
I don't know how deep that sets in. I think it's probably not. I think you're probably in the right ballpark. Like, we don't think, oh, you have to be really deep for that. Well, do you know what being under 100 feet of ocean is like?
No.
And the show's not bent on realism, but maybe they deserve to die in this episode and just come back like Kenny in South Park style next time. Like, we can learn a lesson and maybe the show can go on, but let's teach young divers something valuable here.
Oh, the first major thing that was a little frustrating was the weight dynamic at the beginning of the episode, where like the Pokemon were let out of their Pokeballs and they're on like this balancing ship, and it's like, oh, they go to one side and then it like starts tilting and then they go to the other side
of a single room. They go to one side,
just that little hallway on the ship or whatever.
But then when you let Onyx loose in the ship, who per the Pokédex weighs quite a bit more than anybody else that was hanging out it doesn't do a damn thing.
You got it. They made a big deal about Geodude like bouncing across the hallway, and it's like, oh, he's so heavy at 44 pounds.
Geodude, who is basically one of Onyx's balls.
And then there's Onyx, which the Pokédex says 460 pounds. Like,
oh, you went hard with the research, nice, but hard because rocks. Anyway, but no, that's when he pulled out Onyx and make a stairs. It's like, all right, if this were a comedy, the whole ship would just, if it were like Robot Chicken, the whole ship would just fall over and they would all die right now because they needed Onyx to be a stairs. And also because the principles of matter don't matter, ironically, when it comes to Pokemon. The Pokeballs weigh nothing. I'm only willing to accept that because I play D&D. They're like little bags of holding is what they are.
it's it's so weird. Like you have these like Pokemon that are obviously heavy, and like when they're out of the Pokeballs, their weight distribution affects whether or not the ship is going to tilt over or not. But while in their Pokeballs, yeah, it's just like nothing. The weight
What
of the Pokeball.
what would be funnier if Pokemon weighed like as much as they looked, and then the Pokeballs they were in also weighed that much, or vice versa, and Pokemon actually like were just like holograms, um, just didn't weigh any. They were just hollow shells being controlled by mysterious energy on the like if you break one open, it's like full of helium and magic,
Mm.
and it didn't weigh anything. What's funnier? Where can we take this?
I think their actual weight. I'm just imagining like Brock like is incredibly strong
Well,
carrying
he
around
is
like
ripped. Yeah, absolutely.
he's got like but he puts like he like puts like Onyx like its Pokeball back on his like belt or whatever, and his like pants fall down because a 460-pound Pokeball. You know?
That, yeah, I'm game. Why not? He's a handsome guy. So we get some physics issues inside, and then there's also uh, they have to team up with Team Rocket, which is this is like a forced after school special kind of vibe to it. It's kind of awkward, but I do like when Pikachu they all shake hands, and Pikachu shakes Meowth's hand and still just like buzzes him, and that makes me kind of happy.
Yeah.
But then the next part, my next big problem arises is when they actually get to the hull of the ship, which is the highest point is the ship in the water, but it's the bottom of the ship, it's the hole. And then Misty's like, all right, let's have Charmander cut a hole in there and everybody grab a water Pokemon. And so immediately Ash just throws Charmander, and he just like right away, he's just like, all right, let's do that. And then he just starts cutting a hole.
Yeah.
And Misty's like, all right, everybody grab water Pokemon. And they were just going to leave Jesse and James to die.
Oh my gosh. Like
They would just.
the thing like I they have fought against Jesse and James several times at this point. They have not once seen them use a water Pokemon. And Misty's like, "Oh, grab a water Pokemon." And they're like,
They've seen
yeah."
them use a total of 3 Pokemon, and one is not a voluntary fighter of any type.
Mhm. And it's like if you think about it, think about the plan that the gang like comes up with at that time.
Comes up
Like
with his
Misty's like,
generous word. I feel like it's a reaction. Like, quick, Charmander, cut!
well, Misty's like, okay, like Brock, you obviously only carry around rocks for Pokemon, so like you get like Starmie or something, and like she's like, okay, I'm gonna take like Goldeen, and Ash is like, I'm cool, I've got a Squirtle, and then it's like we know for a fact she still has a Staryu in her belt, and she didn't pull out Staryu to help Jesse and James, and
She
left them with, Magikarp.
she has a Staryu. I don't think she has a Horsey with her, and I don't think she has a Tentacool yet. But she
Yeah.
definitely, at a bare minimum, has a Staryu, and so
Yeah.
that was kind of a bitch move, Misty. So yeah, they were
I
just
know.
gonna leave him there to die, but magically this plan works and they don't die. I do like the part where I like kind of slapstick comedy, but sort of the innocent stuff. So like, Pikachu shocking Meowth, or Charmander running away from the water coming into the ship, and he's like holding his tail in front of him,
Yeah.
and it's like, ah! I kind of like
And
that stuff. That cracked me up a little bit.
I think, and there was also the point where Ash is like, "Man, I can't come up with any ideas on how to cross this chasm that has fire on the bottom. I need some ideas. Pikachu, shock me." And it's like, "Okay, cool." Like,
I forgot that happened. That pissed me off. It's like, Ash, you can't think of anything that might work. You just used an Onyx as a stairs, and you've got 5 other Pokemon in your belt,
you
and
know,
you said Pikachu, shock me.
like
I was very pissed.
electrify me, Captain. Yeah,
I don't, not a fan.
he's just too used to Pikachu's shocks at this point.
I think so. They probably don't even give him a buzz anymore.
Oh my gosh.
They don't even give him a buzz. Okay, I'm sorry.
He's
So
he's this has to have affected his brain to some extent. A 10-year-old being shocked multiple times every day.
I actually believe the fan theory that that in that first episode or whatever,
Oh.
like the Thunderbolt knocked him unconscious, and now he's just having a
Oh.
crazy coma dream. I totally believe that one. That's my
That's
my
that
hope.
does Yeah, that explains why he never ages.
Mm.
Yeah.
It explains all Pokemon nonsense in the fact that it's a dream, which is the easy explanation. But if they never say it, then it's not the easy explanation, and that makes it okay.
But I guess the thing is, if you were dreaming, wouldn't you like do better than like what he's doing? Like you you'd imagine yourself
I've
doing
got
a
some
little
pretty
better.
depressing dreams. I'll say two things. I've got some pretty pathetic dreams. I can identify with Ash's dreams in that, and then also dreams that I wouldn't want to show on children's television. I think they'd be inappropriate. So both things
Sure.
worth considering. So the gang does make it out, and then Jesse and James and Meowth make it out on Magikarp because Meowth is a stubborn little shitbag who won't get back in a Pokeball. Would have
Yeah.
made things easier, whatever. But they get up on Magikarp, and then they're all the whole group, 5 people and a bunch of Pokeballs, on a wooden raft. And that's
Mhm.
when James gets mad at Magikarp specifically because he can't eat him. That's why he's mad, right?
Yeah.
So Magikarp saves his life, and then because you can't eat him, you get pissed. Kicks him in the water.
Well, we don't know what happened though. It's like we saw like Squirtle and Goldeen and Starmie like essentially use waterfall up like the hole in the hull of the ship
Pulling
and
the
go
gang on
out.
ropes, it shows us, yeah.
Yeah, and they drug them up with the, towed them or whatever, like through the ocean to the surface. But we don't see that happen with Magikarp and, Team Rocket. We just know that Magikarp was attached to them. They could have just like floated up to the surface, basically drowning the whole time.
I'm
Like,
going to give Magikarp the benefit of the doubt because he did not kill them. That's for one. He did not murder them, which Misty tried to do. And B, he made it up too. Like I'm gonna presume based on the evidence I have that he did not hinder their progress. So
I,
then their reaction is, we're gonna eat him. And then when they
I,
find out they can't, James kicks him in the water, and he becomes Gyarados. Number one becomes Gyarados. Number two does Dragon Rage, where he apparently, I did not know this is how Dragon Rage worked. He
yeah.
summons like 7 other Gyarados that all are the exact same, like just the same asset used over and over again. So it's just 8 sticks sticking up out of the water with the exact same stupid facial expression.
Yeah.
And they're all still and they're not animated at all for like significant periods of time. I laughed really hard looking at all the Gyarados sticking out of the water.
See, and before that happens, like you have like there's that period of time where Ash, Misty, and Brock are like on the raft that they've seemingly like made, like upon like floating to the surface. And they're like, oh, let's try to look for like let's send Pidgeotto, a bird, out and look for shore or
Yeah.
something. And they find like Team Rocket and like all cool as a cucumber. They're like, well, they're obviously dead. Let's throw them out.
They did. They did we should at least give them a burial at sea, and they'll
Like
like fold their hands respectfully, and then just start to shove them into the water.
but it's like when they
It's
get up there,
amazing.
Ash is just all like, "Golly gee, where's Team Rocket?" Like, huh? Wonder what happened to them. And it's like, Ash, you idiot! You should know they don't have water Pokemon. Like, you've sentenced them to death. You idiot! Oh.
Yeah, kind of. Well, pretty straight up rude. Pretty straight up rude. But they, yeah, it's there's good trash. And I'm gonna say that a lot of Pokemon episodes are good trash. They make my heart happy. They're like junk food or soul food. This episode is bad trash. It's dumb, and I hate it, and I hate a lot of things about it. And I also think that it probably is to blame for my fear of boats and water. I'm not scared of Gyarados because they look hilarious sticking out of the water. I wonder how Dragon Rage works in competitions when you are only allowed one Gyarados. Is it a smaller tornado?
I think that they're forced to not use Dragon Rage. They have to use Twister, which might only use one of them. I don't know. I have no
Interesting.
idea.
No, I have no idea either. That's as good a guess as I have. I think to end the episode, I think at the very end, He uses Dragon Rage, destroys the raft. Oh, by the way, Titanic, Jack and Rose, if you're watching, multiple people do fit on the door. It's fine. Give it a shot sometime. They use Dragon Rage, destroys the raft, and so naturally they all should be dead again for like the 10th time this episode. You know, if they didn't get the bends from going down to up real fast, what about going up to down real fast? Like they just going up and down like a damn elevator. Something's gonna hurt. I don't know how far down they were, but I'm gonna bet that something should be very painful and not right in there. But end of the episode breaks the raft apart. They should all be dead again. I don't know if we see them float up onto the desert island or if it gives like the to be continued before we see them again. I'm not positive.
Yeah, that was a really hot. That was a really tall typhoon.
It was.
And I think that falling from that high, even into the water, unless you like do like the swimmers, like divers, like nose dive or whatever, like I'm pretty sure it's like hitting cement. So
I know that if you land on the water wrong, it would be wildly painful. I'm not a scientist, but I bet you don't want to fall in the water wrong. Yeah, that's where I'm going to end that. I do think if we get to the end and we don't see him washed up on shore or anything, I don't remember where it cuts off because I watched him back to back. I do want to say this about all to be continueds, is anytime you have a to be continued and you have like a cliffhanger, I feel like you shouldn't say to be continued because then we know there's another episode. Like, oh, they're probably alive. The next episode's not just going to be a funeral or something. You should say, maybe it's not going to be continued. They're probably dead. And then next week you're like waiting in that time slot. You're like, is it going to come on? And then it does. You're like, oh, thank God they're alive. And then it's just a funeral episode. Ha ha! Catch 22. Gotcha.
Oh, I'd say, honestly, I think that this episode and the next one, like just this series, like it feels like all of these like couple episodes combined were just like filler episodes just to get just to fill in time for the audience until like the next badge,
Until the next important thing. It is true. I don't really care for most. I like the first two better than these two, so I like 14 and 15 better than these two, and I don't remember which is which, but I do really like the episode where he trades with the rich Monopoly Eradicate guy.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like you Butterfree. That guy, I'm a big fan of that episode just because of that guy's like over the top accent. But so that's the end of this episode. And since Neil's on and neither one of us have read the manga, Neil, I don't think you've read the manga, have you? For Pokemon? I know you read manga.
No, I haven't read this manga.
I haven't either. And then also, I've playing the games. Playing Fire Red has kind of taken a back seat because in the past week I have become addicted in kind of a pretty literal way. I've become addicted to Pokemon Shield. So last week I promised Jesse that every week from here on out I would offer a status update about Pokemon Shield. And so I don't know how many hours I have played, and I don't want to look because oftentimes I leave the machine on and I just do surprise trades with duplicates until I get something good. So I'll sit down for a play session and I'll play for an hour or 2 hours, which I've got recording in the background right now. And I just go do the max raids and I catch the Pokemon at the end. I spend all my wishing stars, gather as much energy as possible. I don't Dynamax in the dens. I save up all my watts and I just have OP Pokemon like a douchebag. And so I've probably spent tens and tens of hours just doing surprise trades with duplicate Pokemon just on the side of whatever else I'm doing. So I have progressed. I am to Hammerlock now, which is like the 4th gym town, I think, in the thing. But most of the time, I would say 95% of the time, is just me hitting the A button to make surprise trades. I'm just gambling with my Pokemon's lives. And it's a lot of fun. Sometimes they get some really cool stuff. I've got like, Neil, I forget, do you have Sword or Shield yet?
No, I've just been playing Let's Go Eevee.
Okay. Someday when I'm done with Shield, you should at least borrow it and determine if it's something you'd like to buy. For those of those, I don't know why anybody here would know. I think Neil's Switch, that's still a relatively recent development. And Switch games are expensive and time consuming. So forgive us for being behind. This game's a year old, Neil, and I just got it a few months ago, and I just started playing it like last week. But it's a year old. I can't wrap my mind around that.
Didn't you say you have like over 100 different like Pokemon or something like that already?
I have seen I've seen over 200 and I have caught close to 150 at this time. I due to surprise trades, I have 12 or 13 level 100 Pokemon that I have acquired through surprise trades, several of them shiny. And what people do, Neil, this is very interesting. Surprise trade is exactly what it sounds like. I throw a trade out there onto the internet, into the ether, and then somebody else does it as well. And that's it. It's not random because it's another human, but it's random of who you're paired up with and why. There's no rhyme or reason to it that I know of.
Huh.
So websites and groups out there have probably figured out. I'm sure I'm not thinking about it. There's probably an easy way to say trade your Pokemon and then cut the save off or something like that, so you actually get to keep your Pokemon, so you can just keep trading them or whatever. And so they attach a name to it that will be a website, like they're using it as marketing. So it's like Sean sends over Goldeen, and in return gets level 100. It's a Gengar, but its name is going to be like Discord, machamps.co.uk or something like that. And I was like, that's brilliant. And so I've gotten like 4 just from that Machamps website, who, like I said, have seemingly found a way just to sort of spam and keep their Pokemon that they're trading, so that they can keep giving them to people in marketing for free in a fashion that I will remember, obviously. I think it's brilliant. So I have level 100 Pokemon that will not listen to me whatsoever because I have only won 3 gym badges. And it's a little frustrating that I can't use them, but they look great in my
Oh my,
boxes.
oh my goodness.
My Pokédex is filling up fast. Let's put it that way. So that's my Pokemon Shield update. Neil, for your sake, I will say that it is an extremely fun Pokemon game because it gives you all the Pokemon stuff you want, but then it streamlines a lot of stuff that I think it's like long overdue. So I hope that someday you will at least borrow mine and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think I will. I'm unsure if I want to go back like a couple generations because I actually grew up watching like Gen 1, like the anime,
Mm-hmm.
and then like I started playing the games with Gen 2, and then I went back to Gen 1, and then I played Gen 3, and then I think it was Gen 4 I didn't play, but I think like I stopped before then. And I kind of went
I
back and I'm like, oh, like maybe like with my emulator, try playing like go through a couple gym badges, and it was okay, but
I kind of get them mixed up. I played a little Gen 1 and a lot of Gen 2 because we got Crystal and a Game Boy Color at some point. And then I didn't really play a lot of the middle gens, but kind of after the fact, I did get Pokemon Black and a DS at about the same time, and I did enjoy those well enough. I can safely say that it's not that it's the best story or my favorite Pokemon. It has all my favorite Pokemon. I don't know that it has a full Pokédex, but I know through trades and other means, I imagine there's probably a way to get every Pokemon in existence. I have no idea. I've never looked it up. I just know that I've seen or acquired already basically all my favorite Pokemon.
Mhm.
And so the story and the nostalgia is not quite there, but functionally it does so many things that at best you're very grateful for how they speed things up, and at worst you just ignore them and they're harmless. And it does so many of those things that I don't have any desire, at least right now, to backtrack. Normally I would say Crystal is probably my favorite game, but it's
Mhm.
hard to imagine wanting to play Crystal while having this game. And I know that sounds a little sacrilegious because it may not
Uh,
feel that good to most people, but functionally, it's so much smoother an experience, and I can play it easily on my TV or my hands,
yeah.
and that's fantastic.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's like this level of nostalgia from playing like the older games and being very familiar with like the process and the Pokemon and everything like that.
And that's great. That's when you kind of strategize. Like you build your team almost in advance. Like this is the team I'm going to go find. I'm going to raise
Mhm.
them, get them here, and they're going to get me through the elite. What's their names?
Mhm.
And that's great. And you keep that nostalgia, and I have that nostalgia as well. Mine's for Crystal. But I said
See,
as functionally as a game, this one plays just infinitely better in the things that it does. I could spend all day telling you all about it, but suffice it to say that it's just a smoother gameplay experience, coupled with the fact that it's finally on your TV and on the go, which is amazing. So
Yeah,
I'm biased towards convenience, but
honestly, I really love the graphics and like the story and how everything like unfolds with like, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. Even like the ball throwing like mechanic, I was super skeptical at first, but it's actually an interesting challenge to the game that it's very, very different from, all of the previous games.
I despise the ball throwing mechanic because I am a JRPG person. Like, I play Pokemon because it's a JRPG. So I despise the ball throwing mechanic. But this game, Shield and Sword and Shield, take several extremely helpful things from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. One, your whole party levels gets experience from your battles. You get experience from catching things. So those are two like direct Let's Go things. Because how could you not get experience from catching things? You already did the fighting. How do you not get it? So it does that. And lots of other like little things that it seems like Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu were sort of the first place they were test run. And now they are in the mainline series. They're part of the deal. And I'm very grateful for that.
I'll admit in addition to the nostalgia aspect, there's just something that I really, really love about like going back to the old games and playing on like an emulator and like speeding it up at 1,000% like too fast and like just holding the space bar, just running through the game. And like I like to have my Pokemon chosen randomly, so I'll do a random number generator to like, okay, this is my team of 6 that I can use, and I have to use my starter until I get at least one of my team of 6 that was randomly chosen for me.
That's beautiful and touching, and I would be okay with that, but I would only allow Hunter and or Gengar thereafter would have to be in my number. Like, I wouldn't allow that slot to be generated because I refuse to play through the game without a Hunter/Gengar. Period.
Really?
I love ghost types and psychic types. My 2 favorite Pokemon. My favorite Pokemon is probably Alakazam, shortly followed by Hunter.
Oh,
Love them.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that like the best Pokemon in the games that I always really wanted like required having friends and being able to trade them, and it's like,
You could have stopped right there and said it required having friends, and I'd have been like, "Fuck, I'm out." Okay. No, because I was after the fact too, so I always had to. If I played it on emulators, at least you can cheat your way around it. But yeah, I was never on time enough. Even by the time I got Crystal, everybody else was on to whatever the GBA Ruby Red and Emerald Green or something like that.
Oh, do you remember when you were younger playing the Game Boys? Like they had the lights,
The
like
IR.
Yeah, they had like the little like swirly like light thing like that you put over there, or there was like the one with the magnifier, like
all the horrible accessories.
Yeah.
I do, but again, all kind of after the fact and not until I got the internet and disposable income. So I started collecting random crap.
Yeah, all of that.
All of this. But well, I think I'm going to cut us off there for now because I feel like I know we're recording back to back, but I'll have to share more updates next week, and you'll have to listen to me gush about Pokemon Shield even more. And so I need to save some things to say for the next one. But we will cut this one off there. And unless you have any final thoughts on a shitty episode, give me your final summary, like in a word or in a phrase. What's your elevator speech on Pokemon Shipwreck?
Hmm.
And you can't say piece of shit because I already took that one.
Okay. Filler, mediocre, not really any plot. 3.4 out of 10.
Nice. Well done. Hey, this has been PokéMalarkey live, coming at you live. And I don't know why I wanted to say that. And I'm Sean, and that's Neil. And if you are live, we're gonna just hang around. We're gonna jump off of this and then start right back up in the exact same stream. And for everybody else, everybody who's the normal 5 people that listen the other ways, thank you so much for listening to PokéMalarkey. Come check us out on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. This is Neil Guman. My name is Sean Shaler. This has been PokéMalarkey 16, Pokemon Shipwreck, and we will be back next week. Thank you guys very much.
But yeah.
Yeah, if you want to go get some more alcohols in your system in between episodes. So technically we're still live right now, but we're not recording for episodes. I'll just entertain the Facebook people with a song, you know.
Which song?
I'll whistle the Pokemon music, perhaps.
No. You gotta just karaoke. Like, I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was.
Down, 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 down. Go get some booze and come back in a good enough mood to sing the rest of the song, right?
I don't think I've ever done karaoke, but I give it a shot.
I'm pretty anti karaoke for multiple reasons, but I'd sing that. I absolutely would.
All right.
He's totally gone. I can say whatever I want now. Ooh, I was sad in Pokemon Shield that you can't name your rival. That was different and disappointing. And it's really awkward to pass this time right now. You know that? It's very strange to pass time alone between podcasts. Just waiting. It's weird. Anyways. Gosh, I hope people can hear me out there. I think they can. Oh, he's back. Neil, you just missed it. I finished the song. Yeah, it was great. It's great. So I'm gonna mute us again on the streaming, so that the stream won't hear us and we won't be in the background of the opening scene. But otherwise, okay. I'm ready to start. And Zoom does not seem like it's gonna kick us out at random this week. Possibly you might be on Zoom on a work laptop or something. If you have Zoom, it won't kick us out. So that's cool. Okay.
I like it.
Hi, my name's Sean. That's my friend Neil Guman, who is sitting in again for Jesse as my co-host this week. Neil, you're now a veteran of PokéMalarkey. Tell me, what have you learned on PokéMalarkey?
I've learned that Zoom can be a little finicky here and there, but generally reliable.
It is the only platform that will allow me to... I'm going to try to articulate this properly, but it allows me to share the screen and also still see my face. Also still have a window dedicated to my face. Teams may also as well. Mm-hmm. I don't have Teams on my personal computer, so I have no idea. Well, see, you learned functional something from PokéMalarkey. That makes me feel good. You know, we're really here to educate people.
Even the hosts.
That's our number 2 goal, because number 1 goal is to drink the alcohols and talk about a children's TV show with people who are cynical about the children's TV show but still love it, because you can do both. We can recognize that this episode, like last episode, is kind of a piece of shit, and we can still love it. Oh, it's not? Oh.
No, I actually very much disagree. I am normally very cynical about the episodes. Like the previous episode,
which was a piece of shit. I think we agreed.
Yeah, it was at best a 3.4 out of 10. It just no plot.
3.5 somethings. You can't just say 3.5 out of 10. It's got to be like 3.5 Pokeballs out of 10. You know, you know, like it's got to have an image to associate. So 3.4 out of 10 Pokeballs. That's what you mean.
Yeah, and it was like 3.5, and it was like you cut like half of it, like so, like only like the white part on the bottom is showing,
but none of the line. 3.46 tops, bare maximum.
This episode actually, like, I found it it is very, very different from the typical episode, and I found the way that like the Pokemon like were being like, subbed, like their discussions, I found it like kind of like interesting and endearing. It was adorable, right? To just kind of
Okay.
see that.
Okay,
So,
well, then just real quick introduction is hey, this is PokéMalarkey episode 17 of Pokemon Indigo League, and it's called Island of the Giant Pokemon. You seem pretty amped. Jump in, take us through the episode. Convert me.
all right. Well, the general plot is from the previous episode. The show ended with James's Magikarp evolved into Gyarados, used Dragon Rage, had a bunch of other Gyarados pop out of the water to assist, and used this Typhoon to blast them off into the air to who knows where. Found out on this episode it's some random island that is inhabited by giant Pokemon. And it turns out that upon the gang, landing or like waking up, on this island, it seems that Ash and Team Rocket lost their Pokemon. Like their Pokeballs aren't around their holster or whatever. Misty and Brock apparently still have them. I don't know why. They were more securely fastened, but basically,
Duct tape,
they
Ash. Come on, kid.
first rule of Pokemon,
I
duct
always
tape.
wanted to know how they're fastened. If it's magnetic and he's got like magnets on his belt or something. I want to know.
I think that they were. I'm imagining like the child's toy that's just plastic and it just kind of like loosely fits in there.
It just snaps well enough that it can easily grab and be put in. Well,
Yeah.
maybe Ash's is shitty plastic, and smarter people, a la Brock and Misty. I don't want to give Misty too much credit because she sort of pisses me off. Still, she gets better. She gets better.
Yeah. But she does
Um,
keep her Pokeballs in her bag, in like
she
her satchel
does.
in the back. So
A
it's a
bag
little
that
better.
Farfetch steals later, so maybe that's not a good idea either. But yeah, maybe Ash has got the stupid plastic like McDonald's toy version, and everybody else is like, "No, Ash, these are magnetic, you dummy!" Like, just put a magnet on your belt.
So like the whole episode is really just the Pokemon are separated from the trainers and they need to find one another, right? And they don't know where they're at, and they're encountering these giant ass Pokemon everywhere, and they're like, what the hell? Like, why is there like this random Bigachu, which is Big Pikachu? I think that's what they called
We,
it. It's
yes,
like
we were all very confused.
it's a wild Bigachu, and it's but yeah, eventually they end up encountering a bunch of these like big Pokemon, these giant Pokemon, and then they like through like being chased, they end up meeting one another, and then they find out that they're actually a bunch of robots, and they are at Pokemon Land, which is a theme park, where like people can go, and it turns out that Giovanni owns Pokemon Land, interestingly enough.
So clearly, it's the front for a drug trade. I think that's the best
Yes.
possible explanation.
I would say so, yeah.
I'm still thinking about the Pokeballs because I can't stop. And we've complained about it before that, you take the Pokeball off and it's really small.
Yes.
First of all, it seems like it needs to grow bigger before you throw it. But
Yeah,
the Pokemon, the Pokemon are already way bigger than the Pokeballs. So why would a Pokeball need to grow bigger at all? Like, it doesn't seem like the mass of the Pokemon affects how it fits in the Pokeball. So the Pokeballs wouldn't have to be bigger at all. They could stay small if they started small. And then I'm thinking now about how that comes back into play in Pokemon Shield, because I don't know if you've heard about Dynamaxing, and basically it's this event that temporarily makes your Pokemon really huge. But if you want to catch a Dynamax Pokemon, which is just a regular Pokemon who happens to be really huge, it's kind of a step further where he takes a normal Pokeball and it turns into like a beach ball, and then he has to throw it like all stupid over his head and stuff. And the whole time I'm thinking, but the size of the Pokemon has never been impacted by the size of the Pokeball ever before. Can you just throw the normal Pokeball? I think it's just for looks, just to have it go and it makes that little noise when it.
I I think that you're probably right. I was always fascinated with this idea as a kid of like you just click like the tiny Pokeball and it like gets large enough like to about the size of a baseball, and then like you throw it and then it can open up, or like it can, capture a wild Pokemon or whatever.
Or disappear immediately if you miss. That's apparently the law of Pokeballs. I would never say this with Jesse on the show. Yeah, I would. Who am I kidding? Yeah, I would. I would never say it so boldly with Jesse on the show. I'd like walk into it more softly.
Mhm.
But in my mind, Digimon as a child, Digimon undoubtedly made way more sense. It's like, oh, you can say anything because like, well, yeah, they're in the virtual world. I get it. Like, okay, yeah, it all goes. The science
Well,
backs it up.
I mean, they're in a dream, so like anything goes.
The same. It's the same sort of cop out that explains everything. It's the old dream sequence. But in Pokemon, it's just like, nah, man, we got to make this Pokeball precisely 100% larger to catch that Pokemon that can't possibly fit in there anyway, and is 10 times smaller than that Pokemon that fits in the same damn Pokeball, regardless.
Well, if you think, well, okay, so if you think about it though, like all of the Pokemon that you encounter in the wild are normal sized Pokemon. Even if it's like an Onix, it's a normal sized Onix. It's not a giant Onix. It just happens that Onix is larger than like Pikachu or something like that. But I guess you would have to use a larger Pokeball in order to catch the giant version of like the Pokemon. I mean,
I'm only gonna accept your answer because I enjoy watching him pick up a like it's essentially a beach ball, and he literally
yeah.
has to like throw it. Or if you Dynamax a Pokemon in battle in your first turn, it's kind of the same phenomenon, but instead of throwing it out in front of him, he makes it grow bigger or whatever, and then he turns and throws it behind him so that your giant Pokemon is behind you. And so now
Yeah.
you and your opponent are stuck between two massive Pokemon literally about to pick a fight. And I like that.
That's no.
It's
That's a bad
ballsy, is what it
idea.
is.
I would not enjoy that.
That's why I'm going to accept your answer because it makes it funny. Makes
Well,
things hilarious.
but they also like in later versions of the game they do have different like balls for catching like different types of Pokemon, or to like make it more likely you'll catch them, right? Like the net ball I
There's
think is for
essentially a
like
catch modifier that I had just presumed that Neil invented because it seems like a Neil thing. But yeah, each ball has a catch modifier, and it can be impacted by other modifiers, and it's very very deep. And the internet seems to know exactly what those modifiers are, and how to use each ball in the most perfect context all the time.
hmm,
Thanks, internet.
what would we do without you?
I would maybe literally do nothing. Well, I'd actually be fine because I would just play old non-internet requiring video games. Uh, hey, Pokemon Shield doesn't have to be connected to the internet all the time, and that's good. That's big for me because I like physical games because I'm a stubborn old curmudgeon. I think I interrupted or maybe we never really started going back through the episode to complain about it.
I
We
mean, I
probably
finished
didn't
the
start.
synopsis. Yeah. Like
Yeah, okay.
that's it.
So I don't have as much to complain about. I will say that when the Pokemon are looking for each other,
Hmm.
the dialogue is adorable, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
call it cringy. I'm gonna call it awkward.
Yeah. It's like this idea of like the Pokemon like just repeat their names, and it's like in different like oh, Charmander, Char, like it's like
Just
yeah, it
different
is
variants of his
cringy,
name. And
but it's
so
like
I'm anti sub because I'm lazy, and so having to like not paying attention, then I'm hearing that and I'm like, why am I suddenly just hearing Pokemon make noises at each other? Oh, they're having a conversation that
yeah.
I have to read because Meowth can't just interpret like he normally does. Normally Meowth will just be like, the Pokemon said this, and he'll be like, thanks Meowth, but he wasn't doing it this time. It was in subtitles, and that made me sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I found it really interesting how like the dynamic like, with the Pokemon and like they're saying like what they're like, uh they end up like subbing what they like say or whatever. It was like it's very different. There aren't many episodes like that. And you wonder like, well, why don't they do that in like every episode? Like the Pokemon are making noises all the time, Pikachu all the time. Why don't they just subtitle Pikachu,
They're
right?
afraid
Like,
that Ash will read the screen, and then it'll be easier to understand Pikachu, and it'll break the experience.
well, I mean, like at a certain point, Ash and Pikachu just like have a normal conversation, you know.
They kind of do, which that part I'm totally fine with because that's how I interact with my dog. Where even if I didn't understand him, but I'm talking with him and he thinks I understood him, and I can tell because his tail's wagging. So the conversation in a meaningful way means nothing, but sentimentally we both feel like we had a good conversation. So I get that. I'm down for that.
Completely. Yeah,
Um,
there. No,
so
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and then the only other kind of serious issue, I would say it's a big issue, both literally and figuratively, is they see these giant Pokemon and it's very scary, and I think Team Rocket is very excited, if I'm not mistaken, because they're like, hey, we found these giant Pokemon. I don't remember exactly how it goes down, but I feel like they're excited at the financial opportunities from finding massive rare Pokemon, or am I making that up?
Um,
I might be making it up.
I think that they were just really worried about like dying or
About
being
being
crushed.
okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
But long story short, you find out eventually that it is a park owned by Giovanni. I don't know if you've ever lived near a theme park before. I know Neil has, and I know if you live in the vicinity of a theme park, you know what that theme park is because it has annoying commercials and advertisements everywhere, and like 10% coupons up as you leave the grocery store and all that stuff. There's no theme park that's any good within a 200-mile radius of any human alive that you don't know about. And second of all, that Team Rocket didn't know about it, and it's their damn boss's theme park. And third of all, it literally comes into play like never again. Like there's no explanation for why Giovanni owns this theme park or how it plays into his dastardly plans or anything like that. It like never shows up again in Pokemon to the best of my knowledge.
I
I
mean,
can't claim to be an expert beyond the Orange Islands, but
I can only assume that Pokemon Land was Giovanni's only attempt at a legitimate business model, and Jesse and James completely destroyed his like opportunity to like come clean and just have legitimate businesses. And he
that's
just became frustrated and moved to crime completely.
you're knocking it out of the park. We're gonna take it a step further, right? Let's say Giovanni's got a family, he's got a little girl, and he's for the sake of his family. That's what started. He's like, I'm gonna take the money from my dastardly enterprises, and I'm gonna start making this theme. I'm gonna go straight. And we're still gonna be comfortable and happy. It's gonna be big. It's gonna be huge. And his daughter's like, Daddy, I love theme parks, and that would make me so happy. And he's like, anything for you, Peach Pie. And that was their bonding experience because their mom, thinks he's a horrible person, and so they're sharing custody of the daughter. And he really wants to make a good impression and be a good dad. And then Jesse and James essentially just burn it to the ground because they're idiots. And I think that we're on to a really dramatic movie caliber story right now. I think we could flesh this out into something big.
Yeah, I think we can adapt this side story of Giovanni and Pokemon Land into like a romance drama. Like
His daughter is definitely blind, at least. I think that's given.
absolutely. She's just like, oh, like I like Pokemon, but do you know what's even better? Giant Pokemon. And he's like, you're right, honey.
And he's so touched at her entrepreneurial spirit, like big Pokemon will make money, and B that they're bonding over this business idea, and he's just brought to tears that he's finally having this moment. He's like, if I get my life back together, my ex-wife will let me hang out with my daughter more, and it's gonna be so powerful. And now he's got to go explain to her that two of his own employees, because they're ignorant and don't see advertisements apparently for theme parks, burned his dreams to the ground, and he didn't have insurance on it yet because he's not been a legitimate businessman before. He doesn't really know how actual insurance works. His idea of insurance is just like protection money to the mob. That's like what he thinks insurance. So he doesn't have insurance on the park, and now he's fucked, quite frankly. Neil's crying. I made Neil cry with
It's
my
too real.
touching story. I think we could do something with this. Instead of Detective Pikachu the sequel, we're actually going to bring out Island of the Giant Pokemon, a tearjerker.
Oh my gosh. I think this is great. I would bet that you could make some really great fan fiction on this.
I'm
It'll
willing.
sell.
I'm willing to give it a try. Um, but I know I kind of took over there, and I certainly didn't mean to.
No, it
Long
was
story
great.
short, I think it. I didn't think about it as thoroughly as you did, and you have swayed me a bit that it's not as big a piece of crap as the previous episode. But I'm gonna say at its best for what it is, it's still just absolute filler. Like it has no impact on anything else that happens. It's just a means to their next demonstration. Excuse me.
Well, honestly, you find out some interesting like tidbits like in this episode. Like I'm gonna keep on pressing you. Like this is several times better than the previous episode.
I'm
So
listening.
at the beginning, you find out that like how Jesse and James got their Pokemon. So you find out at the beginning of the episode that Jesse got Ekans for her birthday a
Yeah.
year prior, and James got coughing for a Christmas present.
So we
And
can deduce that James is Christian.
yeah.
Just kidding. The Well, I don't have to be just kidding. I just mean no, don't deduce that from that. Yeah, we get that, and then you're also kind of left wondering at this point how old they are because I still don't think we know
Oh,
within canon of the TV show. I don't think we know
I had this episode made me think like, wait, how old are they? Like, because the opening was them like on the beach or something,
of the previous
or
episode.
the
And
previous.
Jesse is essentially full bodied in a 2-piece, filling it out more nicely than a weird. I don't know how to make this less weird now. I dug the hole too deep. You're
Than
crossing
Misty.
your fingers that she's of a certain age where that's not weird.
And she's not. I found out on the internet. Ash is 10, Misty is 12, Brock is 15, and Jesse and James are 17.
I believe that there are differing opinions on the internet because I think I don't remember personally, so I can't put up a valid defense. But I feel like Jesse, not in the show Jesse, co-host of this show Jesse, has presented information that like dissents in the internet. But most importantly, that in the canon to this point, we have no idea how old they are. But you're asking like if they got Pokemon for Christmas. Are they children, but they're working for a crime lord? Are they adults?
I don't want to spoil too much, but I think that later, like eventually, I think you find out that like they both ran away from home. Like James comes from a wealthy family. Jesse
Those are
from
coming
a
up
poor.
moderately soonish, I think.
Yeah, Jesse Jesse from like a poor family, and like I'm pretty sure they ran away from home. And I mean, Ash was able to go on a legitimate Pokemon adventure at 10. Who's to say that Jesse and James can't legitimately run away from home and join a crime syndicate at 17? You know,
That's reasonable. I can see you if you were in a bad way at the age of 17. Maybe you resort to the life of crime. I can get on board with that. I will say that the age of 10, what was my biggest concern in the year 2000 at the age of 10? My biggest concern was that like one of my friends had the internet and I had to learn more about what that was. We had it at school. It was intriguing. We were starting to scratch the surface of the internet. So
like
that was my biggest concern at age 10.
getting CDs in the mail for internet and having to deal with accessing the internet by unplugging the phone.
Or you had the call waiting service or whatever. I'm probably roughly-ish Ash sort of chronologically is probably a hair older than I am, right? Because he was probably 10 years old in 1996 or 7 or whatever. And I turned 10 in 1999. So, we're not so different, Ash and I.
I mean, you don't abuse animals, so.
I don't. I, in fact, love my dog very much. Oftentimes he fights with me, and I'm just like, "Oh, Charlie, you cute dog," and then he'll straight up like try to bite the treat out of my hand, and I'll be like, "You know what? You're kind of a jerk." But fight him, never,
Oh.
absolutely not. I think someday I will lose a finger from holding onto a treat a hair too long. I think that will happen.
Uh, yeah, but it'll be fine.
It'll
I
be.
mean,
I'll get over
you
it.
don't need all your fingers.
No, I'm just gonna start giving treats with my left hand because it's way less useful. So, okay, I believe you are still attempting to defend this episode, and I'm
No,
coming
I'm
over.
gonna.
I will give you that it's not as bad as the last one by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I'm gonna continue to defend it. At least that it's better than the last one.
That's
But
easy. You've already got that. I'll let you go farther if you like.
I would love to.
Please.
Yes. So like my favorite part of this whole episode is like the Pokemon Central, like where they're focusing on the Pokemon and their dynamics and like the conversations that they're having. And one, it's adorable, although irritating to hear them keep on say their name over and over and
Yeah.
over. Um,
But the
but
actual words coming out are adorable.
but you start to realize like that Ash's Pokemon more so have like these like personalities, that reflect their upbringing, which is actually pretty interesting. Like, um, like for example, um, Bulbasaur is very much like, oh, like Ash probably abandoned us. He's not going to come back,
It was
and it
kind of
ties
sad.
back, and it ties back to the fact that like he was like Bulbasaur was living in that like hidden village or whatever, like protecting abandoned Pokemon. So he doesn't like trainers. So it like ties into like Bulbasaur's personality,
And Charmander was abused, and
Yeah,
Squirtle was leading a life of crime, but Pikachu's
yeah,
like, no, Ash would never do that, and then I get all teary eyed.
yeah. No, no, no. Exactly. Like Charmander, like was abused and abandoned by its previous trainer, and Ash came by and saved it from the rain, and like took it in, and like so you can see like Charmander has that deep bond and is like very very trusting of Ash.
I wanted I wanted Brock really badly to physically beat the shit out of that kid on that episode. Damien, I was like, if there's a place for violence in this TV show, forget Pokemon on Pokemon violence. I want Brock to punch that person.
That would have been nice.
It would have been great. We're gonna remake Pokemon, but just with not even for adults, but just with like unnecessary, like gratuitous violence and things like that between the humans.
Oh yeah, no, no, no. Just wait, isn't that just called UFC?
That might be. That might be. Well, ours will be animated, so
Oh, well, okay. Then that makes sense. That's totally fine.
very
I
charming, pun intended. Charming conversation among the Pokemon. Even eventually above Coughing and Ekans like expressing some loyalty to their trainers when Meowth is trying to be a jackass and make them fight.
mm,
So that's kind of cute.
that was honestly that was probably one of the more profound like interesting parts of the whole episode for me. Like I found it a little weird that they made like Ekans and Coughing seem very like illiterate or dumb compared to Ash's Pokemon who were speaking in complete sentences. Um, I found that a little irritating, but
It's like
the
the
scent,
cavemen from the Geico commercials.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was like Ekans and Coughing are talking like how they obviously have these strong bonds with their masters, and they're like Ekans ends up saying like, well, Pokemon do bad things because their masters are bad or like have them do bad things, but Pokemon themselves are not bad. Like referencing when Meowth was trying to get them to attack, Ash's Pokemon.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's interesting. There's this really weird like situation where you realize like they deeply care for and are loyal to their trainers, Jesse and James. And they also acknowledge that they are bad people and they are having them do bad things, but they still will like follow them unconditionally, like it's kind of
It's
profound.
it is, and it's almost like the reciprocal of a loving parent loving a terrible child.
Yeah.
It's almost like the reciprocal of that. It's hashtag
Yeah.
deep. It also makes me think of one of my favorite scenes in animation, period, at all, ever, is from Wreck-It Ralph when Zangief is given the bad guy speech. Do you ever see Wreck-It Ralph?
I don't think I have.
Are you familiar with Zangief?
I don't think I am. I can look him up. You think?
Google him. He is from Street Fighter, from the Street Fighter series, and he's a large human that doesn't wear much clothing. He's a large masculine male. That's Zangief.
Oh, the
And
Russian one. Yeah.
I'm gonna butcher it, but because if it were anyone else, I wouldn't try it. But because it's you, Neil, I'm gonna try. And it's something like this. They are in Bad Guys Anonymous because
Mm-hmm.
Wreck-It Ralph is a bad guy in a video game, but he's kind of getting tired of it. It's a good movie, Wreck-It Ralph. It's a good movie. I sincerely recommend it. Not just because we're talking about cartoons, but it is a generally good movie. They're in Bad Guys Anonymous, and essentially he's trying to come to terms with being a bad guy. And Zangief is like, just because you are a bad guy does not mean you are a bad guy. And he
Oh
has
my
that.
gosh. That's good. Yeah.
And it's really, it's not deep, it's stupid, but it's kind of deep. And that's what I thought of immediately when I was thinking about the Pokemon.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, yeah, you don't have to like let your identity, you know, like
I kind of
how do you
equate
want
it
how do I
to,
say
I
it?
kind of
Yeah.
equate it to what you do to survive as opposed to what you are as a human. And yeah,
Mhm.
those aren't totally separate. You shouldn't like kill people for work and then pretend to be a good job or whatever. They're not totally separate, but you're just trying to add some divide in there. You're like, just because I'm a Pokemon who is told to fight other Pokemon doesn't doesn't need to define me
Yeah.
as an inherently bad Pokemon.
Kind of reminds me of Meowth's little speech during the first movie.
It's actually been so long that I've seen it since I've seen the movie. I think I've only ever actually seen it twice, and once was probably in 2001 ish, and then one more
Oh,
time a few years later. So I remember very little of that movie. It should be fun at some point to go back and watch it with kind of fresh
on
eyeballs.
this. On this. Yeah.
On this, yeah, it'll be fun.
Oh yeah. You
It'll be a good
should.
time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's honestly like Ekans and coughing. Like I always love for some reason I always loved coughing. Like I always got the sense that like James had a really good like relationship with his Pokemon
Yeah.
and he should have been the star of the show, quite honestly. But
Well, in his own way, he kind of is the star of the show. Yeah,
yeah,
he may not be the protagonist, but is he the most important character to hold our attention? Maybe. Maybe.
I mean the and Team Rocket had a few good like there were a few good zingers, like funny things. Like they were running around or running away from like the giant Pokemon and Jesse and James like run into a sign or something like that. And they're like, oh, maybe it's a good sign. I don't know why I thought that was so funny.
That was pretty good. I laughed pretty hard.
And then like Squirtle and Bulbasaur, they're like you can definitely see their like personalities. Like Squirtle like goes to like the giant Blastoise and he's like, "Yo, brother, how's it going?" You
And
know. And
Blastoise just demolishes him because in
yeah,
this theme park they went through the trouble of giving their giant Pokemon accurate
yeah,
moves.
yeah. Why?
Because Giovanni's blind daughter asked for it. It was her wish.
It was their last wish.
Well, I don't think she's dying, but she can be if that sells more tickets. She can be dying if that'll sell more tickets.
And
Uh,
then and then Bulbasaur like ends up going like the gang is trying to get Bulbasaur to talk to the giant Venusaur, and he's like, no, 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 I don't want to do it. And they're like, but you're like family. And he's like, call me an orphan. Like I have no family. I'm like, what?
I wasn't supposed to laugh, but I did.
Yeah, I know. Like, oh,
I mean, you've got me swayed. I didn't love watching it because it's still filler at best, but you've got me swayed that it's a notably better experience. Give me your final thoughts. What's your elevator speech on the island of giant Pokemon?
um, I would say if this was an anime, and it is kind of like this is
Yeah,
like
it's enough.
this is like a great like filler episode, like not slice of life, but it's just like you don't need to pay a whole lot of attention, you know? And the Pokemon, like this is one of the more different and more unique episodes from everything else in the series. Like if you want a break from the normal, like, the normal like, oh, Pokemon battle, like, oh, badge, like that, like if you want something a little different from that, like this is the episode. And if you want it to be a little bit too adorable, this is the episode for you.
If you want your heartstrings tugged.
Like I would say decent episode. I would give it a 6.2 out of 10.
6.2 Master Balls out of 10.
6.2 Master Balls.
No, that's too easy. Let's 6.2 nest balls out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was for like the island of giant Pokemon. Like, couldn't we just say Pokeballs? Like 6.2 Pokeballs.
I'm just trying to give some credit to the other Pokeballs that exist out there. You know what I mean? To the lesser known kinds.
6.2 Voltorbs.
6.2 Voltorbs out of 10 Pokeballs. It's an unexpected surprise.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of deep, as was this episode. I actually didn't think about how deep it was. Like I watched it and I absorbed it, but it didn't hit me. I was like, all right, Neil, you're right. There's some cute, thought-provoking content in this episode, and it made me get to recommend Wreck-It Ralph, which is frankly one of my favorite animated movies. So you should go watch that as soon as you can.
I will.
If you and your wife are at all are into that, essentially young kids animated movies, it's worth your time. So, I don't have much additional. We talked last week, and we're recording back to back. So we talked last week, quote unquote, about making progress in Pokemon Shield. So I won't offer much more updates, but I will say that my goal for this week is to actually obtain a 4th gym badge and potentially a 5th, because I have all these great Pokemon that I've traded for in surprise trades that won't listen to me, and I'd like it if I could use them. They're so far ahead of me that they don't even listen a little bit. And some of the footage, if you're actually watching, you've probably seen my Gengar, who's like level 74 or something. He just ignores me probably 4 times out of 5. And then the 5th time out of 5, he'll do whatever move he wants. And it's not usually the one I want. So anyway, I will make progress, and I'm enjoying Shield thoroughly. That's my progress update, Jesse, if you're watching. In the meantime, Neil, thank you so much for sitting in for Jesse for 2 episodes. It has been a pleasure to speak with you about Pokemon, and we'll play Magic the Gathering with physical cards, because that's important to me, physical cards, but in a virtual distance again soon. I found that very enjoyable.
It was great. Thank you for having me on again.
Absolutely. This has been Pokémalarkey 17, which I already forgot the name, Island of the Giant Pokemon. Thank you so much for watching. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as Pokémalarkey. And also I have another podcast called Avatar the Last Podcasters that I'm very proud of. Please go check that out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. I've turned the audio back on just to say bye to anybody who happens to watch the stream as it's playing or in the future, doubtful as that may be. But thank you to those people, and Neil, thank you, and we'll look forward to having you on again sometime.
Definitely, please do.
Preferably with Jesse in the fold, because we need Jesse's zest. I'm gonna call it. We need his zest.
Zest.
Is what this. You're very level-headed, and I don't know anything. What would go better with that mixture of ingredients than something zesty? I don't know if that's. I hope that's a good thing to call somebody.
Zest. Oh man, like.
I I think seems like a good
spicy picante, like hot. Like I'm trying to think of like words.
food
Like
adjectives for Jesse. I'm sticking with, I like zesty. It's got a nice ring to it. I don't necessarily know what it means, but I think that's part of the fun. It's like an arbitrary taste that I can't describe.
zesty.
Zesty.
Yeah, I like it.
I feel like I hear people say zesty barbecue or zesty garlic. You know, I hope he likes either one of those things.
It's something that you would find like, you know, it's something how you describe like a pepper or something, but not like the zest of like an orange or a lemon, you know? Not that kind of zest.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It's the thing that makes like your nose hairs prickle while you're eating it. That's zesty. Or maybe it's not.
Jesse,
I actually don't know.
No, Jesse is definitely zesty.
I think
Zesty
I'm going to
Jesse.
stick with it. It's zesty. So, but yeah, hopefully next time he's back. And also, for the record, we look forward to getting some of our other previous guests back on here and kind of cycle through that group because it's a lot of fun to get other people's opinions on this children's TV show that we try to put a lot of importance on. So, Neil, thank you. Anybody who watches this video from the live stream, thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.